I'm an intensive care specialist. I work in Newcastle, and over the years I've seen very many people die in an intensive care. And I think people need to understand that under those circumstances they won't be able to make decisions for themselves or about their own treatment at that time. So I became very interested in how people could plan ahead for a time in their lives when they weren't able to make their own medical decisions. Well, advanced care planning is the process by which you think through what might become of you. And that really revolves around a few things. You need to know what's wrong with you. You need to become aware of what your treatment might be. And that requires that you go and talk to your own doctor, for instance. So you become much more aware of where that goes. And then you start to talk to people around you and think through what's important to you and what you might want them to decide to do with you in the event you can't any longer make that decision for yourself. So you think through the goals of your own treatment, the things that make your life worthwhile. And the whole process of planning is just really going through that phase of recognizing that sometime you will need others to decide for you and how you would want them to do that. The way that you can plan ahead to take some control, if you like, of what happens to you in the future is to go through a process of planning. And as part of that, it's worthwhile for some people, in fact for probably quite a few people, to get something in some form of writing. So you can have the discussions with your family and friends, but in the end it would be very important to have something by way of some sort of documentation. And the choices that you have are two. The first of them is to write what's called a living will or an advanced care directive. This is a difficult thing to do, I have to be honest and say that's not easy, and you would need some help in completing such a document. But there are people who would like to do that, and I would encourage them to do so, but with the appropriate advice. Another option is to appoint somebody to be your decision maker in the event that you couldn't make decisions for yourself. And this is a very powerful strategy. What you can do is ask somebody who can be a close relative or may even not be a close relative to actually act as what's called your enduring guardian. And you can give them a very clear idea of the sorts of decisions you would like them to make and how you would like them to make those decisions and what your goals and preferences for treatment would be. And this puts you in very good position in the event that you reach the point that so many people do reach, 4 out of 5 people reach, where they become so unwell or just so elderly that they're really in no position to make decisions for themselves. So those are the two options. You can either write a document which is addressed to the doctors of the future, a difficult proposition but something that can be done, or you can appoint somebody to be your decision maker, and there are provisions for that under New South Wales law. If people want to write something, and I do think that in many cases that's a good idea, there's a few things that they should bear in mind. One is that you need to say something clear about when this becomes applicable. In other words, if I am like this, then I want you to do that, or not do that, whichever you wish. So it's always got those two forms. If I am like this, then this is what I want. And that would apply whether this was a so-called living will or advanced care directive, a written directive, or whether you were just saying something or describing this to your enduring guardian. In terms of clarifying how you should phrase it, the most useful people you can talk to is your own doctor or your own doctors and specialists to clarify what in fact are the things that are likely to happen to you as a result of whatever illness you've got. So if you can clarify with them, that's very helpful. And then you can say, well, in the event that I do end up, as I may end up, then this is what I would like you to do. If I can't make that decision for myself at the time, this is what I want you to do. And that, as I say, can be written either as a directive to the doctors, or an advanced care directive, or as a part of your conversation with somebody that you want to be your enduring guardian. Well, people find it very tough to go through this process. It's a hard thing to think about. Or clearly you're thinking about becoming very old and frail and possibly dying. So it's not easy to go there. So obviously it's important that there's a reason to do this. And the reason is this: if you don't say anything, your family is going to be left having to make decisions for you on the basis of what they imagine you might have wanted. And families have been known to find that very stressful, to sort of say, oh, I think she would have wanted this, or I think she would have wanted that, without any real information to go on. Our experience from intensive care, and my own personal experience, is that it makes a world of difference to people to be able to say, we had this conversation, we know what she would have wanted, we have this in writing that she wanted this, we know we're acting for her, and the stress is gone. It becomes a much simpler process for them to act in a way that they know would be consistent with what that person wanted. So we have now evidence from research studies from all over the world, and including Australia, that show that the grieving of people is much less when this process has been through and they knew what the person wanted, and that their stress levels are much less in that circumstance. So the benefit of advanced care planning is not just for you, it's actually also for your own family.